Hey, beautiful souls. What is up? I'm so stoked to have you here today. If you like this week's podcast, please consider giving the YouTube channel a subscribe and hit that bell, or we'd love it if you left a review on any of the podcast platforms that you are listening to this on. I'm so excited to share with you today's episode. We are talking with a psychic channel, and she is also a tarot card reader. So we get into spirit guides, how to contact your spirit guides, how to work with them, how to develop your intuition, and just general tarot card reading tips so that you can start tuning into that divine guidance that is always there for you. You just might not be aware of it yet. So we get into all those details. We have an awesome chat. Supermoon is so lovely and she's so warm. So I hope you feel that warmth reaching you. Can't wait to share this week's episode with you. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone. We have Supermoon Tarot with us today, and I'm so excited. If you do not know her, you should, because her YouTube channel is scary accurate, but like in a good way. Like so good.
I'm gonna start
also,
blushing intensely.
I'm just gonna compliment you for like the whole hour.
So
Supermoon's
sweet.
also a friend of mine, and I just love her so much. So I'm so excited to get into today's episode because we have so many good things ahead. So first of all, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your story, how you got into intuitive readings and spirituality and all that good stuff.
Oh, that is a very big question. I'm gonna do the best I can to more compartmentalize so I don't ramble. I will say that I have been pretty like intuitively in it since I was about 13 unknowingly. um, I had a lot of things staring me in the face when I was younger that I look back and I'm like, girl, it was not normal how regularly you predicted people's deaths by accident. Or I would prophetic paint a lot and I was just like, oh yeah, it's normal for me to do something and then it will show up, blank time. Like I just wasn't clicking into that. But tarot reading, I was at a pretty low time in my life and I was like, okay, I gotta do something that will keep me like going, just kind of like you can turn off your brain and just get into a hobby, throw yourself into a hobby. And again, you think the synchronicities would be staring me in the face that I would pick tarot cards of all things. And I was like, tarot cards are a cool thing that I've on and off, dabbled in or thought were cool. And so I treated it kind of like an academic thing where I started studying into it. But like, I don't want this to come across as like humble bragging, but it was very small amount of time into my studying and practicing when I just immediately started accurately predicting things. And I didn't know I was channeling then, and I highly recommend for anybody who does tarot reading or in general is living their life, talk out loud, because I would talk to myself and be like, okay, I'm seeing this and this. And then you get into it. And that's when I would start channeling unknowingly and just start saying stuff and getting into it. And that was kind of like the beginning steps before I like really like, now I'm like fully aware of who I am. I've got full control of it. So that's kind of the smaller version of it all.
Yeah, I love that. I love your channel too. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it's really cool because Supermoon mostly does pick a cards. She has some really cool like chakra videos or spiritual like the Akashic Call records, archangels, so little spiritual tidbits in there of beautiful education. But most of them are pick a cards, which I love. This is such a great way to like get a free reading essentially because you get to go onto YouTube. Yeah, right? It's like it's so accessible, so affordable, and your intuition lines up with her reading. So you intuitively pick what reading is meant for you, and that's how you get such an accurate result. Also, Supermoon's amazing and very tuned in. I have legitimately
I know,
like,
but it takes two. Oh,
It
sorry. I
takes
was gonna
two.
say it takes two
Oh
to
no,
tango. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Because I'd be like putting my key in the door, listening to one of your YouTube videos, and you'll be literally narrating what I'm doing. Like, say you put your key in the door, and I'll be like spooked, but like in a good way. So
I'm
I
in your mind.
for real. And then like 2 minutes later, I'll be like, say a bird flies towards you, and I'm like eating takeout on my deck, and a crow like flies towards me, and I'm like, spooky accurate.
That that makes my heart sing because I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those people who, when they get really into their craft, they're like, but of course. I'm always like, when someone's like, this happened to me or this was accurate, I was like, I like kind of fangirl. And I'm like, really? That's great.
Because I still do that in my practice too. Like, if someone's like, whoa, how did you know that? If I'm like journeying, like doing a past life reading or something, I'm like, oh, cool, because all I had was your name and email. So like I would have had no idea. But thanks
I
for
got
letting me know.
nothing.
But I get so excited. I'm like, yay, like a confirmation. Even though I know it's real and even though I know I'm tapping into something, it's just so nice when someone's like, you're so on point. Like it's nice. It's nice to get that. But
I couldn't agree more. And this might be a little, I'm not trying to like hijack your
oh,
interview, but don't you mutually feel there's such a joy in how you went about approaching it compared to like a couple months? Like I always, that's the greatest thing with, I feel, most spiritual divination, whatever you choose, because like, there is no wrong answer.
mhm.
But don't you always find it's always like, oh wow, I didn't do that 3 months ago, and then you just keep getting a different version of it or a different, and it's all accurate and it all works. But I feel like it's definitely a parallel to when you're spiritually growing, you're seeing the world in a new way. So it makes sense that your craft is developing in a new way. And so I'm agreeing with you, both the excitement and it's like, oh, isn't it even exciting as you're doing it? You're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that.
Right? It's so nice too. And like, how are you supposed to know who's watching your YouTube videos, right? Like, it's like the spooky accuracy of the universe coming together and being like, platter, here's exactly what you need to know. And
Yeah,
I
completely.
love it. Yeah. You're like, if anyone hasn't checked out Supermoon, I highly recommend Supermoon Tarot on YouTube. So good.
That is
So
so
good.
someone
um,
like, not to like go into a thing, but someone wrote me like the nicest email and I like made me like cry. I was like, oh. Like, so that your compliment is heard, received, and means a lot to me. Yeah.
well, it's accurate. I never give out false compliments. So so true. So like when we get into divination and everything, I know a lot of people worry about like, are you going to predict my death? Are you going to tell me I'm doing something horrible? Is there a wrong choice? What would you say to people who are like nervous about the future? Because I notice in a lot of your readings, you do a really eloquent job of giving people points to work on maybe or things to consider and contemplate, but like it's never harsh, but it's always accurate, you know? Is there a way someone can like choose the optimal timeline or choose the right choice when they're getting a
Yes.
reading and then going forward?
That is a fantastic question. I was going to be like, oh, you're doing such a good job. It's such a good question. Anyway, I was going to say one, okay, for any newbies, the death card does not mean death. You have to get a specific combination of cards in order to get that. So we'll be clear with that.
Mm-hmm.
Two, this is the beauty of tarot cards and why I'm such a pro, like everybody should just casually get into it. When you are able to predict things, this is what I have found and I have had confirmed to me. The more you are able to identify whatever the issue is or whatever lesson you need to learn, and you're quicker to going, I get it, I understand it. You can actually avoid the painful in real life lesson or lessen it or quicken it, whether it be an emotional, you can handle it better. But I got to be honest with you, the quicker you're like, oh, I see, I'm trying to give an example. Um, Maybe you struggle to try new things and you just right away, you see that's in the card reading and you just right then kind of have an acceptance moment where you're like, I got to learn to try new things. And just being willing to accept that lesson, there you go. You've helped the timeline in the thing. So the more you kind of teach yourself that if you get a reading that is not what you would ideally like, and And I understand initially it's super scary. It's totally understandable if you act out of fear initially. But if you start to be like, hey, lucky me, I got a blueprint to skip the scenario I didn't want, or realize the scenario is actually working in my favor, because it's always working in your favor, even if it initially doesn't feel that way, you
Hmm.
basically can work it to your advantage. So that would be my point is look for it, figure out what can I learn or gain from this and understand instead of right away being like, oh no, why? And if let's say it's something let's say a boyfriend is going to break up with you and you're like, oh, I don't want that to happen. I highly recommend pulling more cards and going, well, why? What am I going to get out of this? And you can then grade or find out. Maybe you learned that they weren't beneficial for you, or they're about to tell you a secret, or you understand that they're making room for your actual soulmate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I love that. Because, like, I've had readings in the past that have been scary accurate, and I've completely ignored them. And then my life kind of goes to shit. Like, it's like,
literally
and then,
every tarot reader in the comments when you ignore your readings.
right? And it's like, I've done it, like, I did it when I was 16. I've done it in my early 20s. I did it like 2 years ago. Like, and I have learned, but there's still that logical part of my brain that's like,
I know. But the thing is, how do I say this? So you're meant to kind of like, yes, you're allowed to make mistakes. That is like totally a given in the universe, but um, don't underestimate. Maybe you were meant to ignore it, and you were meant to kind of get like a buffering to get enough proof. And I would highly recommend the quicker you're like, I'm just accepting, I don't need as much proof, the quicker you can learn the lesson. But it is not a fault if you're like, wow, I was meant to ignore it until this time in my life, because now that I'm woke to it, this, and this lined up. So if you
mhm,
do ignore it for a while and have some sort of repercussions from it, it's going to ultimately always end up in your favor. But I
yeah,
understand when you're in the moment. You know what I mean?
totally. And I think too, like, that's such a beautiful sentiment for people to take away from this is like, there is no wrong path. There's no wrong path. I see it all the time in the Akashic Call of Records. I see it all the time in the client work I do, is like, there's choices and we can make choices, but like, you're part of the universe, you're part of eternity. So, like, relax a little bit, and like, if you make a mistake, then it's
Yeah.
fine. Just move on,
It
you know?
It makes me think of I've seen it too in the Akashic records. I was gonna say when I talk to my spirit guides, they talk often about the idea of like timelines. And so just because like let's say you do reroute things and you go on a new timeline, nobody said that that was like a bad timeline. It just might be a different timeline, and that's ultimately clearly what you wanted to do. So
Mhm.
exactly,
I
completely.
also, yeah, see it as like, if we are a piece of the creator, which I think we are, like the whole we're all one thing boiled down as like, whatever happened before the Big Bang or whatever expanded the universe and made creation, like, we were part of that. You cannot have anything bigger than the creator. So we carry that consciousness, source, whatever you want to call it, with us. And it's probably boring knowing everything. Like, so boring. Like, so
But you
like,
get pieces,
right?
little
But I'm like,
pieces.
I think if I were to ascend, I would eventually want to come back because time doesn't exist. So you have literal eternity to like be like, oh, I'm bored being ascended. So I'm gonna come back and be the worst.
I mean, but where's the lie?
Right?
I think that's it's so funny because I think that's a really good way of explaining when people are like everything's going well in their lives and then they start making choices and they're like, where did everything go wrong? I'm like, were you bored? Were you bored with everything going great? You needed a little bit something different?
It's true
But then
though.
not to like go on or like to on purpose go on to like a side branch of the conversation.
Mhm.
That's a great way because sometimes that's an issue and you might be like, man, I don't like that I self-sabotage when everything's going great. And you can be like, okay, and this would again be an example of acknowledging something and then learning from it. You'd be like acknowledging me like, oh wow, I do this whenever I feel too good. I almost think I get bored. Maybe there's a different level of goodness. Maybe that level of goodness then goes to aspiring towards like some sort of skill or hobby or being able to go the next level in your career or whatever, instead of on board, let me start talking to someone maybe I shouldn't be talking to and blah blah blah.
Totally. And I saw that even in my career because I used to work in restaurants before I got full-time into spirituality.
Who didn't, girl?
Right? Like so good. I used to like go to my restaurant job and be like, beam lighted everyone. But I'd still get sucked into the drama, right? Like anyone who's worked in a restaurant knows that there's like always politics, drama, weird policies you don't agree with, like servers
I was
sometimes get
really
a little
lucky. I was
catty.
the only person who couldn't speak Mandarin at my job. So there definitely was drama, and I like could see when people clearly were like mad at each other. But I was like, I mean, they would talk to me, so they would like then fill me in. But I was always like,
Mm.
okay, something's going on.
Just like artfully avoided it, right?
I was like, I don't know.
But yeah, it's like now that I'm full time in what actually I think is maybe my life purpose, or at least my purpose right now, like I don't attract so much drama into my work life, into my life, because like the part of me that needs a challenge is being challenged, like filing my PST taxes and registering a business and figuring out marketing and figuring out how to launch. All that's taking so much of my energy that like I don't have time to attract drama. Like I'm not here for it. So anyone who's struggling right now and is like slightly aware, maybe they're self-sabotaging with like a drama cycle, maybe they've woken up to the fact that like we do create our own realities, but they seem a little like stuck in the like, but why is it going this way? Like really think about, am I being challenged enough in a positive way?
Yes. Oh, I love that. And you know what that makes me think about? I'm very passionate about this lately because I've come across a couple instances where I don't feel it's my place to say something. So you just unfortunately see someone, you're just like, there, I can tell if I say something, they're not ready to hear it kind of thing. But
Mm.
I'm a strong believer. And it's one of my favorite things I've noticed in the spiritual community that has really popped up in the last couple years. So yes, let's be compassionate. Let's be willing to rise above being like upset by drama and not having it affect us completely. But you don't have to endure. If you notice anybody that would be defined as super spiritually woke and people are like, oh, that, that teacher, that leader, that person, notice they are not in a situation where they have to explain themselves. They're not in a situation where they're dealing with difficult people. So are they awoke enough that they can handle it completely? But
Mhm.
you notice that as they rise above, like you're saying with your job, you rise above your situation. And it's more than okay to both be like overcome in compassion for people, but also be like, oh, I'm wishing you the best. Goodbye, though. I don't have to
Right?
deal with this. Goodbye.
So nice. I find too, like the more like spiritual awakening experiences or the more woo woo I get, like the more people just like naturally leave my life. Like I don't necessarily have to have
Yes.
a fight with them, but it's just like they just kind of stop talking to me, or like they just stop having any common interests, and we just kind of like fade, and it's
Oh
not
my God.
necessarily
You know when
dramatic.
you're like, when you're like a teenager and you're like, why didn't that friendship work out? And then you look back and you're like, that was not a good friend. Like that was like a blessing in disguise.
When I'm like an adult and I realize my high school bully was my best friend. Like 5 years. Like what? And that's on self-reflection and observation.
That is some like intense reflection.
Right? But like I'm glad that has deleted itself from my life. We're moving on. And now I have
Yeah,
friends
exactly.
like you, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyone who's like maybe gone through a spiritual awakening or maybe leveling up in any area of their life, it doesn't just have to be spirituality. Maybe you get a promotion at your job, or you win some money, or you're living your best life in some way and someone makes you feel bad about it. Like it's okay to just naturally let that fade out. Like you don't have to.
Just scream into their face, projecting. You're
Right?
projecting.
Because like it does bring up people's crap when we're shining and succeeding if they haven't done the work themselves, you know? And like you don't have to.
You'll trigger people unintentionally
Mhm,
just by being.
totally. But like it doesn't mean you need to dim your light to make them comfortable, right? Because then you're like both dim, you know, you're both in the same cycle. So
Don't it takes a lot because people can sometimes put you in a position where you feel that, how do I put this? When they say something to you, you feel like you have to they make you feel like you're the jerk, even though
Mm-hmm.
they're the jerk. And it's all about, even though they're trying to leave you in, while you're standing up for yourself, leaving you in the moment to be like, man, am I the jerk? They said this comment and they just like left me with this feeling and they left. And you have to just be like, kind of view them as, and I don't mean this in a degrading way, but it's like they're kind of like a toddler having a tantrum. You're like, okay, I love you, sweetie. Bye. Go cry that out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
why
Like,
don't you take
wishing
a
you the
nap and we
best.
can pick this up again later
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
feeling better.
But it takes a lot of strength. So I think people should maybe take a second if they notice a lot of things are happening around them. Maybe your life isn't in a jam, but you're doing so well. Other people are like, you're kind of in a transitional phase where those people are going to filter out of your life. But when you're in that transitional phase, don't give in. It's understandable to give in, but don't give in. Keep
Yeah,
that light up, like you're saying beautifully.
totally. Yeah, I saw a quote once that was like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a smarter room kind of thing. So it's almost like if you're the brightest light in the room, doesn't mean you don't love those people, but like maybe you need to find a place that is just as shiny as you, right? Like where you can be met with the same like unconditional love and light that you're probably projecting outwards at people, right?
I not to like I know this is gonna sound a certain kind of way, but like it's like the people that watch my videos, like when I read, they are so I genuinely feel this about everybody, that they are so lovely and insightful, but they are just so lovely and smart and get it and make a lot of points that are like make me be like, yeah, and like so like I'm like, oh, I found my light bulbs.
Right? That's how I feel when I go on TikTok lives. Is I'm like, ooh, another great question. Like another person like on their path, living their life, doing cool things. Every time I get a comment, I like smile. I'm like,
Yeah. And I want to be clear, you don't have to I just want to say this because don't think that you have to be a certain level in your either psychic abilities or your divination practice or your meditation practice or living life to be the light bulb. So
mm-hmm,
even if you're still kind of mastering, maybe you get angry a lot. That's okay. It doesn't, don't think that that's it. You're not the light bulb as well. Does that make
mm-hmm,
sense?
totally. I think too with anger, it's like it's a really beautiful like doorway into the hurt that might be underneath it, but it's also a really beautiful doorway into like the passion we might have. Like say like human rights, right? Like someone might be like, "Oh, you're an angry activist," but it's like, "No, you have so much love and compassion for people who might be underprivileged that your
I love
anger and
that.
passion is shining light." And it doesn't mean like, you know, do things that are going to cause bad karma for yourself or something, but like I think there's
Or
really
was that
effective,
meant to be? No, I'm just kidding.
right?
I'm not condoning. I'm not condoning.
But like I think that like using anger in a constructive way is like such a beautiful thing too, right? Like you can be an amazing lit light person who gets angry in a constructive like, how do I work through my feelings, how do I process my stuff, how do I stand up for myself, how do I set boundaries, like I, I think there's this idea that like spiritual people are all like love and light and I eat granola every morning and meditate in all white pants, like white cotton pants, and like walk on the beach a
I've
lot.
got
And
black pants on.
right, I have sweatpants on. But it's like there's no like right or wrong way to be spiritual. You're spiritual because you exist, period. So all
Yes.
of the human emotions that go with that is like a beautiful thing you've come here to experience.
and
So
and in and I think you said everything perfectly, and I wanted to add on to your point about anger. I actually talked to a spirit guide for someone once, and this person was struggling with anger, and the spirit guide actually was like, I'm here to support that because you think that your anger is something to curb, but it's actually going to be fueled in sort of a way where it's beneficial. Kind of the way they described it to me was like, you know, when like you can get the mental picture of like you're going to finish the race and you're like, oh, I'm going to finish that race, and it was like, and it was a totally different way, and it really relieved and helped the person, and then it turned their passion and fueled it in the way like you're expressing. So exactly, I
Mhm.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and like personally, sometimes I have a hard time being assertive with certain people in my life, like my family and certain close friends I'm fine with, but people who are more like acquaintancy, I have a really hard time being assertive with. And when I get really ticked off, that's when I have to dig deep learn those life lessons
In
and
the
actually
moment.
speak up for myself. And I have to keep reminding myself that like the anger is valid, but also like having personal standards and personal boundaries is an act of self-love, and loving myself is loving everyone. Like I can't pour from an empty cup. So like keep that in mind too. Like if your boundaries are constantly being crossed, like a little bit of anger can fuel what you need to, like you said, cross that finish line.
You're not spiritually unwoke if you need to stand up for yourself or say, draw a line in the sand and go, hey, you crossed that line. Not cool with that line being crossed. Stop completely.
Right? Or like fear, like this idea that people don't get into fear if they're spiritual. Like we still have a meat suit we're walking around in that is hardwired to survive. So like if you get into fear sometimes, it doesn't mean you're not spiritual. Like just means you have a meat suit and an ego like everyone else on this planet. So it's like really normal and really okay.
And I have nothing else to add completely.
Right? But I think too, like in our friendship, we talk a lot about not putting anyone on a pedestal and not having like a guru mentality, because everyone has something
I
to
am
add.
like insanely passionate about this. Okay, I don't want to get too like, I don't want to go like, I want to like keep it reserved. Remember, I'm like Supermoon, but like it drives me up a wall how many. Okay, I'm trying. I'm if I start going, I won't be able to stop. If
I'll rein
you
you
are
back
so
in.
if you were so spiritually woke, you would most likely believe and realize that we all have value and we're all worthy. So why is your opinion worth more than someone else's? Why should you be not asked certain questions or challenged? Or if I get stuck, I won't be able to stop. But the point is, I couldn't agree with you more. There is a little that can be an issue sometimes in the spiritual community, and I definitely think that it's there's nothing wrong with having like a teacher or mentor, but always pay attention. Is someone talking at you or with you? Is there a conversation being like, here's some information? Do you want to add on to that information? What do you think of that information? Rather than being like, this is the only way, take this, be quiet. You don't know. I've studied for 15 years and you don't. That's another thing too. I have met some really talented people that barely got into their craft. You don't need to have done, there's no harm in doing something for many years, but a lot of people use time as a pedestal.
Which is funny because time doesn't exist.
Yes, every time.
I mean, social proof and all that sometimes helps in like your business or whatever. But like, it's like,
yeah. Like I said, there's no criticism of it. But if people use it as a weapon to put you down, it's like, why are you putting me down? Are you like woke? Are you like chill?
And I see that too with like kids and stuff. Is like when people are like, oh, like they're a child, they know nothing, and I like totally push them aside. I'm like, do they not have a new fresh perspective? Like should we not at least see what they have to say? Like
I feel like more and more kids like in the coming generations and every generation are more and more aware, more and more eloquent with the way they express themselves. They're already hopping and skipping. I'm like, are you just mad because they didn't have to learn those lessons? Are you just mad because they're like, for me, I'm like, yay, I'm so happy you didn't have to endure that.
Right? But also like it's beautiful that people have endured a lot and we can see both perspectives, right? It's like I love talking to like my like over 65-year-old like lady friends who are all woo woo and like wear crystals around their necks and like have been doing spiritual stuff for like maybe 5 years, maybe 60 years, maybe 50 years, you know, but also like I could talk to a toddler and have my mind blown. So like
yes. Oh my God, yes.
right?
I completely agree. Beautifully put.
Yeah. So it's funny. The point is, anyone listening, is that like there is no wrong path. You're doing great. And like wherever you are in the spectrum, you're expressing something beautiful about creation. So go easy on yourselves. Yeah.
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 It's
So you
all
mentioned
valid.
right?
Yeah.
You're valid, and you're valid, and you're valid.
Yeah.
You get some self-love and you get some self-love.
When you were like, you're doing great, I can't unhear Kris Kardashian going, "You're doing great, sweetie." It's not just in my head.
Such a mood. I feel like I'm minus the like billion-dollar empire. I feel like if my kids did do a recital, I'd be like up there working it with the camcorder. That'll be me in 20 years. Like, you're doing great, sweetie.
I'm gonna be inappropriate if like I have like a friend doing Reiki or something like that. I'm like, you're doing like they're trying to like be all peaceful to like their client. I'm gonna be like, awesome. That energy is really flowing. My poor
Like,
neighbors.
me cheering everyone on.
Yeah. So cute.
Yeah, but you had mentioned talking to your spirit guides earlier, and I would love for people who are like, how do I contact my spirit guides? Am I doing the right thing? Like, how would you suggest slowly or gently integrating intuition
Okay.
and spirit guide wisdom into their life? Because I'm big on this. I'm always like, pray, 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 talk to them all the time.
So I can name it, I can do it, I can see them, I can hear them, I receive it. I don't know all the clairs, but like I also have what you have where you like download instantly too. I can smell, I can touch, I can all of it.
Clear all of them.
But when I first got started and it shifted. So first, I would definitely highly recommend, you don't have to know your spirit guides. Set the intention. My spirit guides, love and light. What's up? Hey, spirit guides. Remember, you have animal spirit guides too. So animal and human spirit guides. And you say like, hey, spirit guides. And then you just start talking about your day. Let it flow. Pretend you're just say like gobbledygook. Let it come out and see what else, and you'll find yourself slowly start channeling. So that's one technique. But this is surprisingly the biggest one. And it's weird, but I have told this to a couple people, and nearly every time they discover they're a channeler and like full on start talking to spirit guides, start by changing your wording. So you want your wording to be like, you would never say, I don't know. You would say, I'm figuring it out. Don't say, I can't remember. I will remember. I can do it. I think I can do it. I think, and even try to even remove the word I think. So I feel I'm going to do this, and just kind of start this conversation within yourself of this open window of this flow of it's possible. Mm-hmm. You do need to set the intention of like, I'd like to be able to talk to my spirit guides. But okay, so when I first started, not to like jump ship, but to give people a form of like validation, you could say, sorry, I'm like validation when you're in your path. So when I first started reaching out to my spirit guides, I didn't really know I was channeling, so technically I was in contact with them. But I was like, spirit guides, you there? And like I wouldn't really get anything initially. And then that is when the weird animal encounters started happening. I used to live in nature, and I used to regularly have like baby squirrels come directly up to me. Birds used to visit me at my window all the time, like blue jays and stuff like that. I had a lot of weird, like, I could go on and on, but there was a lot of animals that would just come like way too close to me, and I would have people with me being like, do you know them? Like, and I was like, no. And those were like some of my first encounters with my spirit guides trying to reach out to me. So then I started and that's when the conversation being like, okay, I feel like they're saying this. I believe I could potentially, and you'd be shocked how much that window open, and then start meditating. And when you go to meditate, set the intention that you're like, maybe if an image pops into my head, give that a little more validity. Maybe if I thought because this is a huge thing people don't know. When you're psychically doing stuff, it's not always a clear audio sound of a voice. That's something that you develop in time. And it's not always a clear picture. In fact, if this gives hope to anyone, I am actually, is it called aphantus? It's when you can't see images in your head, you see black.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Close to that. It's like, yeah, I always say spirit talks to us in a way that makes sense. And so like, if I get a download, like the zip file I always talk about, like spiritual download, I can describe in detail, like what a past life client of mine was like wearing and what century it was from and what part of the world. And I know all this stuff. if you were in my head seeing what I was seeing, it's like pretty much all black with like a few faint outlines of things, but it's more the idea of things.
It's seeing without seeing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I always describe it. And I can see images now perfectly, and I'm like, but I'm saying like, I was once that. And when I first started seeing, it's like you're saying, it's like, I would tell you, I'd be like, it's yellow. And I know it was yellow, but I didn't see the image was yellow. Things like that. So, give validity to these like kind of inkling passing of thoughts in your head, whether it be an image or a voice or they speak through your own voice a lot of times. So sometimes you'll have a thought that you think is your own. So you try to like kind of tap in and be like, hello.
Yeah.
That would definitely be the starting, believing that you can, using the vocabulary that fosters that, and giving yourself moments to give that an opportunity of something popping in. And don't be like, oh, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. Stop. I saw an image. It was there. I'll figure it out in time.
Yeah. And that's like when I teach people how to journey to the spirit world. The biggest thing I run into is people not believing what they see, hear, feel, experience, smell, taste, whatever. And I'm always like, spirit talks to you in a way that makes sense to you. And they'll only show you as much as you're open to or believe. So as much as you can, go in with an open mind. I always get people to write down their journeys, kind of like you'd write down a dream so you don't forget it. And I'm like, write it down before you judge it. Because I'll have these like in Earth time 2-minute journeys. I'll think I get nothing. I come back, I write 4 pages of notes, and it's very detailed and there's a lot of wisdom in
I
there,
know.
right?
Whenever I talk about it and share mine, it's like I was gone for like maybe 10 minutes, and it's like, we just talked for 2 hours. I am so sorry. I didn't know it was that much.
Right? And it's so funny too, because like in the spirit world, time does not work the same way at all. So like I can journey in under a minute in Earth time and get so much information. And I feel like when we tap into our spirit guides, even just in Earth time, like walking around, going to Starbucks, you are able to talk to them or get a download or whatever. Like you can get the answer to a problem waiting in line for your like cappuccino or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, if this gives anybody like an excitement, if I'm like pressed for time, my spirit guides, like when I used to like when I was going through like a huge like clearing out my past lives time in my life, they would be like if I had a past life that was like resisting crossing over, they would be like, we don't have time for this. They'd be like, we gotta go. They're like, they would like hurry the past life up, like, here you go, you're here, let's go. And it's the same. And this is like, if you want, when you first begin, you're gonna want validity, proof in the real physical world. And I have opinions about that, but I want to say, a good example of like little moments when you're like, oh, this is like for sure real, besides countless other, not to go into it, but like I can't tell you the amount of times where they'll stop talking and they'll look to their right, and like they'll look over, and then I'll like open my eyes to see what they're looking at, and then like someone right then will come into the door, like they'll stop talking, they're like kind of letting me know they're here. You know what I mean?
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's
so
crazy.
funny.
I hope this is okay that I'm showing this. One time we were talking on the phone, because you and I are like, like on a personal level, you and I, can I talk about this? Yeah, okay. And then like you and I accidentally like opened portals.
I know, I was thinking that. I was gonna be like, I'm gonna bring that story up if you don't.
Okay, is it okay if I tell her? Or do you want to share?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, I saw someone like walk by, and I was like I went like this and I followed it, and then it disappeared, and then I watched your head turn, like your camera turn the exact direction. You then watched a light, and then like you followed it, and I was like, what what just happened?
I remember, it was so spooky. Do you remember the time there was a crack too? There was like, it was like a bolt of lightning off to the side. Like I was sitting in my bed, we were on like video chat or whatever, and I think I was talking about wanting to teach people how to journey and do past life work, and I was like, it is everyone's human right to access the spirit world. And then it was like, I saw like probably a 2-foot long bolt of lightning in midair off to the side, and I heard like a crack, and you heard it and I think saw it too, and I was like, oof. What is that?
I don't know how to do it because like maybe I'll do a video if like anyone's interested, but I'm very like pro like this is how you heal yourself. This is how it all works. Let me give information. But I'm also like, yes, crazy, paranormal, weird stuff can happen. It's cool, but like there's
Mhm.
stories like that. Because I too have had it wasn't the same instant or same experience, but like a crack in space where you're like, okay.
Right? Yeah. And that's why I'm so into like teaching people the way I was taught, because I was taught so much spiritual safety stuff, so that like you can access your spirit guides. I do believe it's a human right to like go to the Akashic Hall of Records and learn how to journey and learn how to talk to them and learn how to be in touch with them. But I have seen people get really like spiritually burnt out and sometimes have health problems because of it. And like shamanic practitioners and shamans for like 70,000 years have been passing down how to protect yourself against that. So it doesn't mean don't pray to your spirit guides, don't try and hear them. But like if you're ever leaving your body in a meditation or something, it's really important to come back fully, set the intention to come back. If you open a circle, if you do witchcraft or something, make sure you close the circle, all of that
That
stuff.
That's why I'm very pro tarot card reading in conjunction to anything. I mean, you're
Mhm.
welcome to use a pendulum. I think that's completely valid too. But in my opinion, if you have that safety net of being so like in the beginning, when you're trying to understand what you're doing, you'll have instances, but you won't always have the answers initially because it's a skill to develop to go to the spirit realm, to talk to them. It is a skill. And I just say this in a positive way to everyone that you will get better in time. It's totally normal to not be amazing at it initially. But anyway, then you do the tarot card reading. It's a great way to like be like, okay, I can ask the cards. They can give me a straightforward answer. I can be like, hey, what's going on? Did I get back in my body? Is everything safe and cool? And you can kind of like check it and you like, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I love too that like, especially with like the classic like Radiant White or Rider White, I can't remember what it's called, but like
Rider
the
White.
Rider
Rider
White.
White.
I'm like, I think
I
I have
should be
Radiant
better at that.
Rider White is like the deck I have, Radiant Red, so it's like a lot of R's. But with that one, it's like I love the idea of like tuning into the whole picture. Like I think if you're starting to read tarot, it's like if I see a cup poured upside down, but I see a card underneath it, I'm like, where's my energy and emotions pouring? You know what I mean? Because cups are about emotions, especially if it has like water pouring out of it in the card, or if there's a figure looking out at water, like contemplatively. I'm like, oh, you're thinking about your emotions. You're taking some time to contemplate, and you can see that. So it's like, I think anyone who's getting into tarot, really try and read it like a visual story and look at what's pointing at what, how things
It's
are
actually called
interacting.
intuitive reading.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's how I do my tarot card readings usually.
Yes.
I don't do it
Yes.
professionally really, but like if a
No,
friend
that's
asks,
valid.
yeah, then or for
Because
myself.
oh no, that's completely valid. And I loved what you said too, because you pointed out something really important that I love in tarot is I feel in life we'd all like to believe we were self-aware, but it's super normal to have tunnel vision, not see the bigger picture. That's the whole point, just to be clear, of
Mhm.
living life is to be
Yeah.
able to spiritually see that over time, witness that, and witness that, and then as you're witnessing it, take care of it and everything like that. But tarot will like put it all out on you and go, "We're talking about this. You keep ignoring it. We're talking about it." And you're like, "What's
I
that?
know.
I don't like that. What's that?" And they're like, "We're talking about it." And one of my favorite things is tarot is very what you need and not what you necessarily want. So it doesn't happen continuously, but I will occasionally get tarot card readings where like they'll a little bit give the answer to the main question, but then but then like basically my spirit guides are like, that's great. We're talking about this. This is the real, you're asking this, but really you want the real answer, and this is the real answer. And you're like, let's do this. So
That
yeah.
is so true. And it's like there's kind of no hiding from our spirit guides. Like I've been working with them for like 10 years, consciously with journeying. But like probably more than that subconsciously in my life. But like they
Of
can
course.
transcend time and space. So it's like you can pretend all you like, but like they already know.
Also, if this makes anyone uncomfortable, because like like I've been asked this question a couple of times, so I just want to be clear.
Mhm.
Sometimes people can get really uncomfortable with that idea. Here's two answers for you. One, you can totally, if you like need some private time or you're in the bathroom or something like that, you can be like, can I have some space? And they'll give you some space if you need it
Yeah.
so that you don't feel, if you ever feel like I want to be alone, you can ask. They'll go away. They'll like they're not gonna ditch you. They're not gonna be mad at you. They'll give you that space you need. But two, it can just take some time, but like they do not care. They do not judge anything. They could not care less if you like anything. Like they're just anything that you would normally be like, no, but I don't know. They don't care. They are unbothered, unfazed.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, and it's like they're eternal beings that can transcend time and space. So like that they don't care. They really don't. Like they do, but they don't. They care about what you care about. But
I mean, they
like
care about you and they want to help you grow, but
yeah,
like that's about it.
but like they can see literally everything that's ever existed. So like if you're like picking your nose or something like that, it's like
They're
they
just like, I don't care. But I
yeah.
understand like that can take some time to adjust to.
Mhm.
But just some, I mean, every teach their own, but like, you know, the sooner you allow them and like you're cool with it and you're over it, the more you can receive their help. I'm just saying.
Because when I first started journeying, it was like the lights were off and I was judging myself a lot because my mom is a little bit more claircognizant, or sorry, not claircognizant, clairvoyant. I'm claircognizant. So she
Which
will
one is
see,
that again?
she'll like see things like movies. So like when she journeys, it's like a whole motion picture epic.
My my other psychic friend,
Mhm.
she sees things like movies too. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so like I literally thought there was something wrong with me and that I wasn't getting anything on the journey. And I was like also at the same time trying to like prove if it was real or not. Cause I was very like just got out of high school. Like all my friends were pretty critical, you know, so I kind of like developed that streak too. So I was like, I'm gonna prove it to them. So then I can tell my friends what I do is valid. So I can be accepted by them was kind of where my head was at, right? And so I was doing like probably my third journey. So I'd done it a couple times. It wasn't great. I wasn't having great results. And like I was like to one of my spirit guides, like, oh, why are the lights off all the time? Why can't I see anything? Why don't I get any clear answers? And I was talking to one of the Greek goddesses that I work with, and she was like, we're only showing you as much as you believe. And I was like, damn. And I realized then I was like, oh my gosh, like they know. Like they know. Like there's no hiding things.
That was your lesson to yay.
Mhm.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So I took a few months off actually, and I was like, okay, I need to decide if I'm going to buy into this and if I'm going to go down that path of like journeying to spirit and doing healings for myself and others and stuff, or if I'm going to be like super logical, critical, accepted by friends, like version of me, right? And I chose to, I was like, oh my gosh, my life always works better when my mom does shamanic journeying for me. Like it
I
always works
know.
better. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like anecdotally, it's like, of course, like if you could tap into like universal knowledge that transcends time
You
and
can. You go
space,
to the
right?
Akashic records all the time. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like, why would you turn
And
that down
spirit
for like
guides.
being normal, which is
I
just
know.
setting on the dryer?
By the way, I can like my spirit guide is like relentlessly being like, tell that story. I when this is like a I'm trying not to derail it, but we'll go into this conversation later
Derail
about
it.
the okay, then I'll derail
Yeah,
it. By the way,
full
loved everything
permission.
you said. But I was gonna say, this is like a bit side, but so when you first are doing what you're doing in any sense,
Mhm.
talking to your spirit guides, any form of divination, anything, because we're talking about like a wide gamut of abilities, you're gonna want proof. And you're going to eventually need let go of that crux, and you're going to need to let that go. And the more you let that go, the more proof you'll actually get. But when I was in the beginning of stages, my spirit guides really wanted me to continue on this path, and I was in a point where I was like, I had been shown informational proof, and you think I would have at that point believed it, but it's like a thing to process when you're experiencing this. And then my spirit guide was like, look at me. And I like looked at them, and I watched them push a bag of chips like just off it. They were just like, look at me, and they pushed it. And I was like, and they were like, it's real. And I was like, I was like, okay. Forever. I mean, I believe them for a lot of other proof and reasons, but then this is what my side subject is. This makes me actually think heavily about something. One of my recent spiritual talks videos on my YouTube channel, you should totally check out, is chakras. And traditionally, chakras are read, the first chakra is read from root, and then it goes up to crown. But in the Akashic records, it's actually crown to root. And my spirit guide said this is specifically because when you start from the physical, this is the root chakra, which is like needing proof, basic needs, tangibility, and then you work your way up, it's really hard to let go. You're always going to be coming back to that mindset of like, I want proof, show me proof. But if you start from the top, and what I mean by this idea of starting from the top, it would be like you're just contemplating woo-woo ideas at the top. And my spirit guide was like, it's totally fine. And it's actually like recommended if as you're kind of going through these ideas, we go down the chakras and concepts and ideas. You're just kind of like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not necessarily getting, and you're meant to just kind of hear it lightly and then get to the root. Because the way they explained it is, you know, when you're like doing your thing, you're like in the spirit realm, you know, when you like get like a piece of information and it doesn't mean something to you then, but like a week later, you're like, oh, dip, that I needed to hear that then, and I'm processing it now. That's basically the idea of how to best interpret existing in both the spirit realm and the physical plane by starting from the whatever. So you kind of need to slowly overcome that needing physical, that tangible proof over time in order to get the best experience. A great example of this is paranormal investigators. Love them. I got nothing bad to say about them. But it's like, yeah, it's hard to get proof. You're trying to make a non-physical thing have a physical existence.
Yeah.
Well, when you are in the spirit realm, you can like talk to them. It's like a whole, you know, it's like a much more tangible. You'd be like, you want proof? I can tell you, I can show you proof. I can do a lot of proof for you. But when you're trying to force it, it's like that crown chakra being forced into the root chakra. It just doesn't make sense.
That really like just connected a bunch of dots for me too, because like it's
I'm
such
ready
a
to hear about these
metaphor
dots.
for incarnating. Because like when we're up in the spirit world before we incarnate, we have an idea, we write our life contracts, we decide who we want to incarnate with, all that stuff, and then we take the consciousness and create physical reality. So it's like such a metaphor for that. I'm like, it makes so much sense. Like you take the spiritual and you make it physical, right? Like crown to root.
I'm having like a very intense light bulb moment, and like it's being received intensely. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'll see more validity for the information I'm being told.
Right? And even with like past life work, it's like if you go to the Akashic Hall, or really I suggest having a reader, a trained person go to the Akashic Hall for you.
Well, if you're not good at it, like when you go there, it's gobbledygook.
Also, like, do you want to watch your most traumatizing things, or would you rather someone like heal it and then tell you about it when it's healed? Like, I prefer that.
Yeah, you baby step your way into it. I get you. Yeah.
Right. But like, if someone were to go to the Akashic Hall and work on the spiritual level that connects down into the physical in multiple lifetimes, it's like that in turn, like what we do in the spirit world then goes down into the physical, right? So many layers happening.
Yes. They it was super meta too, because this is continuing, because this is why I'm like, I love spirituality so much. When you dig into the specifics, everything is always meta, very much like yin and yang, like the constant repeat. I mean, it's just always prevalent in information even being given. So the chakras are like independently representing small ideas, but we obviously know that through them are the like what's like the core idea of like third eye-ness doesn't come from the third eye chakra. It's a filter. to a bunch of things coming together, being filtered through the third eye chakra, and then that's what you're like getting. That's the finished product. But you're getting these simplified ideas in order to then go through them and get to the more complex ones. So it's like you're understanding this in order to then, when you get to the complex one, it's like an amalgamation of, like, you could think of, we're just using the term chakra here, but we'll talk about like ideas being intermixed, and they create these more complex ideas that then intermix with each other. It's not unlike when you're processing something like the root chakra and you're like, okay, I get it. I can taste, touch, I see it, very simple, very to the point. And then you work your way up to the crown, and it gets more and more like there's not always a vocabulary for what you're experiencing, and it's very much meta this way, meta this way. Like, I love it.
So good. Spirituality is so cool. I just love
Yeah.
it. Right. Could talk about this stuff forever.
Oh, I can and I will.
Right, our like 8-hour long conversation.
I know. I was gonna ask how long your podcast is. If this is okay, it's going on for a long time.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay,
Most of my episodes have been like an hour and a half. So
okay, good.
yeah, but
because you and I, like, people don't know this, but you and I talk for like an insanely long time. So I'm just like, when you were like, do you want to do my podcast? Which I was like so flattered, but then I was also like, how long is the podcast going to be? Because we'll go.
You're like, set a timer, girl. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. That's cute.
Yes. I know that manifesting is like a big buzzword too. I see it all the time on my TikTok feed. I feel like a lot of the like woo-woo spiritual stuff that does well on YouTube is all about manifesting and stuff like that too. What are your thoughts on like pairing spirit guide tarot wisdom with a manifesting journey? Because you shared with me.
Can you say it again? Sorry, someone's like talking to me and they're like, tell her that. No, I can process what they were saying because I was trying to.
Do you want to tune into them first? Psychic.
Yeah. Sorry. You were talking and I just like, it got in my face really intensely. Hold on a second.
That's okay.
Just one moment. Okay. They were like, they told me and they were like, I love you, bye. I know, so cute. I love spirit guides. Anyway, ask that question again so that I can properly answer you. Ooh, I can feel the energy really intense. I can feel like the desire to channel, and I'm like, not right now.
Anyway. You could if you wanted, honestly. But no pressure.
Too public, but yeah.
Fair enough.
So talk to me in 5 years when like I'm like doing it all the time, but like right now, right? I'm like, yeah.
Supermoon, the next Abraham Hicks.
That is a very big compliment. Go on.
Anyways, so with manifesting, it's a buzzword on like TikTok, like I feel, or like YouTube, Instagram, like I feel like a lot of spirituality based channels talk a lot about it. What are your thoughts on utilizing like spirit guides or tarot or your intuition to like make manifestations happen? Because you shared with me a really amazing manifesting hack that works really well, super well. So like, I'd love to share that with the world.
You are welcome to. You want me to answer the tarot one first, though, right?
All of it, yeah.
Okay, so okay, well, I'll share just really quick what my spirit guide was telling me.
Mm-hmm.
They said that if you experience synchronicities, they said all synchronicities are proof of manifestation. They are not about coincidences. They are not about meanings. Am I hearing this all properly? They're like, yes, keep going. It's always like, they're like baby manifestations. So you're like, there's one, I can do it. There it is. I'm doing it. It's going. So you should give that a lot more importance and love, because it's like kind of building in the inner mantra of like, I'm doing it. It's happening. I'm doing it. But it's more than being like, oh my God, synchronicity. It's like, no, you just manifested. It just happened. But you can use synchronicity because I just love that word. It's so beautiful.
It's funny because that's like the whole basis of my intuition boot camp is like using intention to get in touch with your spirit guides and your team on the other side to then get
my God, girl, team
to then manifest right? And it's so hard to separate intuition and manifesting because they're so interlocked. So I love that you brought that up because that's exactly what my boot camp is.
I was gonna be like, who needs to separate them, interlock?
Yeah, it's like
but I know what you're
manifesting.
saying.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
a really good point.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm getting a little spacey because of the channeling. So going back to the tarot thing, the energy is like just very intense.
I can
So
feel it too, actually. My third eye
do
is
you
like,
feel it? Yeah, it's really intense. Don't
you
worry,
need to
I'm
take
gonna
it
be
back?
okay.
Okay.
No, I'm okay. But like I'm so happy we're friends because you know what I mean when I'm like, oh, I'm a little spacey.
Mhm.
So what I was gonna say was, with tarot, one of the first things I would recommend doing and setting intention spirit guides is, first of all, spirit guides can totally help you. So you can actually work with them so directly where you're just full on like, can you make this happen? Is there a way we can make this happen together? Now, you just want to put this out there. You don't need to partner with them. You don't need to, you can just ask them. They love you. Love is infinite. You will really fathom that love on a deep level as you like experience it. But you can be like, hey, is there a way you can make this happen? Or do you know how I can make this happen? And you can just start talking to them through the
Mhm.
tarot cards. So that's one way, just talking to them. And you can get an answer of like, yeah, we'll do it for you. Don't worry. Or like, this is totally within our realm. You were supposed to ask us. Or they might be like, well, go, talk to this person or pick up this job or ignore this. The other thing you can do with like, because I do pretty much all my tarot readings through informationally through spirit guides. But you can be like, okay, I want to in general manifest. What can I either do or, and this is a key thing with tarot that I think is so valuable, you have to develop, and I guess that's too strong a word, you will learn to develop asking the right questions and being good at asking questions and asking multiple questions. Because sometimes you're not asking the right question. The question could be, what's blocking you? What's
Mhm.
preventing you? Is there a mindset you need to get in? Is there a lesson to be learned? What is it that is? So if you're just like, you ask something, you're like, I'm not really getting the answer when, or it's not flowing. Maybe it's not you needing to do something, but remove something.
Yeah.
So spirit guides, when I say work with spirit guides, I just use tarot to full and be like, hello, spirit guides, and then like talk to them through it. You know what I mean? So that's
Totally.
one I highly recommend. Is that a good answer?
Yeah. I think too, like adding on to that for anyone who's listening, like I think one of the most asked questions I get is like, how do I know I'm tuning into them if I can't hear or see them? And I always say like intention. So like set your intention when you're shuffling your tarot cards to connect to your spirit guides or your team, like it's
Sorry,
all it needs is intention.
I just heard someone go, we're always listening. They were like, we're always listening. So their answer is, you're not, when you go to do tarot, if you want to do it through your spirit guides and talk to your spirit guides, you do not need to be skilled to connect
Mhm.
to them. They're already there ready to connect to you. The cards in the reading are a skill based thing because initially in the beginning, if you just aren't good at seeing the pictures or you don't know the meanings or the nuances and stuff like that, that's its own separate conversation and skill
Mhm.
work and stuff like that, that you can totally develop. But to say like, well, I don't know, maybe I want you were, period, just that
Yeah.
simple.
Right? Yeah, just don't set an intention to like maybe connect with like maybe I'll like like just don't set the intention to connect with something spooky or dark. You know what I mean? Like just like as long as
Love
you're
and
like
light,
love
baby.
and light,
Spirit guides.
that's all it takes. It sounds too good to be true. Like it sounds too easy to be like just set an intention. But that's all you need. Like the universe works in vibration. So like just set that
Well,
intention.
and not only do I agree with you, but this is something to contemplate. We live in a society through deep conditioning where if you work really hard, that has more validity than something else. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but there's so many people that unfortunately work very hard and unfortunately don't receive a reward for their hard work. Maybe that's not working. Maybe you were meant to have an easier life. Maybe things were meant to be easy. And if it's hard, you're kind of being given the proof that like this is not where you're meant to be. Does that
Mhm.
sound too harsh? I'm not trying to.
No, not at all. I think it's like once again, getting back to observing things and questioning things and maybe separating yourself from your beliefs a little bit to like observe them, kind of like we were talking about in the beginning, is like if you can separate yourself enough from what you're thinking, it's like, oh, this could be easier than the story I'm telling myself. Like most millionaires don't work hourly rates to make $1 million in a year.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like they have passive income. It is easy for them. They have an accountant to file their taxes, so their taxes aren't scary.
It's like the work smarter, not harder concept. And that's why I was agreeing with you with the idea where you're like, oh, it might be too good to be true, but it's not. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Right? So it's like, yeah, your spirit guides are like literally sitting there like, hi, we're here. Hello.
I know, I can like see them right now.
Hello.
they're trying to like give me some space because like if they bring my attention too much, I can't help but be like look over. So I'm trying not to.
That's been happening to me more and more on my TikTok lives too. I'll like hear like Archangel Michael like chuckle across the room and I'll be like, sorry.
I know
he's back to the live.
It's really cute when I do it's like a little insider thing. When I do my tarot reading, they like lean on the like desk and they like point and like talk to about things very casually. So it's like a very endearing like slumber party when we get together to read. So like I love it. I love my job. It's like the best.
Right. Yeah. And once again, a great example of like things can be easy. Not that you're like you don't have to work, but it's like you're in the flow, I would say. You have something that works for you.
We're totally in sync because I was going to say this is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life because this is what I was meant to do. So I do work hard and I did work to gain a certain level of knowledge, but the quickness of how much I picked it up and was just naturally good at it was like the answer from the universe of like, this is what I was meant to do. This is because previously it was really hard and that was my mantra and that was my belief system. And I think again, this goes back to the idea of the breakthrough with being able to channel and be more aware of my gifts was when I finally was like, I'm done. I want life to be easy. I want things to be quick. And I don't want to have this mentality of I have to do something to deserve it. Mm-hmm. And then it was like the universe went, you have learned that lesson, my dear. Here's spirit guides. Here's a natural gift. And I was like, whoa. So yeah, that was one of my blockages.
Totally. And I think too, like the more we develop our intuition and the more we trust what we're getting and the more we understand our own intuitive gifts, the more we learn tarot or how to journey or channel or all of the above, it's like the more we get in the flow. So it's like at this point, I
have a video about that.
Right? Yes, you do. Go check it out, friends. But like, it's like I'll wake up and I'll tune in with either my inner guidance system, my higher self, or my guides about what I feel like doing that day and what would be in my highest and best. And when I forget to do that, things don't work as well, right? But it's like if you live in a constant like conversation with the universe, they will give you the answers, but they don't want to mess with your free will. So it's like you got to ask.
The free will is the big, like constantly repeated in the spiritual information I gained. Constantly, it always goes back to like free will. So that's just to be clear. But two, I want to agree with you and say, and something beautiful I've learned is that they told me that when you're in the flow, you can still be sad and be in the flow. Do not think that, people often are like high vibrations. That's beautiful. High vibrations are wonderful. You can have that, but it doesn't mean you're actually off your path. Like an example of like not feeling great, but being in the flow would be like, I'm not having a good day, but I see that I'm not having a good day because of this. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to take this as a challenge to like work on this. And like, maybe I can challenge myself to be not great today, but like not be judgmental that I'm not great. This would be like an example of like, you're totally getting it. You follow your inspired action or not feeling great, but then being like, I don't feel great. I'm going to go for a walk. That's you having an inspired moment and going. You're still in the flow. No one said that don't feel your best. You somehow fell out of it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I had that on the US election day. Like I live in Canada, so it's not even my election, but like I could just feel this heaviness in the air. And I thought it was something wrong with me at first. Like I was like, I'm gonna be so productive. I'm gonna do this. And eventually I journeyed and my spirit guides were like, watch this video. And I fell asleep instantly. And now I'm like, they were just telling me to have a nap, but they also knew that I probably wouldn't
They
listen to
tricked
them
you into a
if they
nap.
just told me to have a nap. So I'm like, I see you guys. I see that. But it was like the deepest, most perfect, like 3 to 4 hour nap where like time
Oh, that
ceases
sounds
to
juicy.
exist and you go so deep and you're so comfortable and you wake up and you're like not too groggy, but you're like, I went deep with that nap. It was so perfect. And it was exactly what I needed to do. And I felt so much better when I woke up. So sometimes, yeah, it's like I thought I was having an off day. I thought everything wasn't working out. Like I tried to go to a brunch spot, that one was closed. I went to another one. I had to sit outside in the cold and the rain. And then a friend came by and surprised me, who just serendipitously was there, who lived an hour away and was on the exact same block. And she's like, "Oh, I knew it was you because you had like your pink faux fur coat on." She's like, "No one else would be wearing that. I knew it was you." So it's like the serendipity happens even if we feel like we're not in the flow, if we're in the flow, you
That
know?
is a
So,
perfect example.
and it
That
was
is
great.
that is yeah, go on, go on. That was just perfect.
Yeah,
I just love that.
it was great because it's like I was meaning to call her, all this, and I just didn't. And then, oh, I was gonna call you, but I didn't have enough time. So like it worked for both of us. It was so great. So it's like that's a great example of feeling like you're not in the flow, but realizing you're in the flow. And sometimes just take a nap.
That makes me think of two things. One, that makes me think of a friend in high school who had a long distance relationship, and so when she would like miss them, she would take like a nap because she called it time traveling because she'd be closer to the date when they were gonna meet us. I thought that was so cute. Two, I'm so sorry. The thought is just leaving my head. What was the last line when you just said? I just processed everything you said and then went on my head.
Being in the
Being in the flow.
flow, serendipity.
No,
You can be in the
serendipity.
flow and not feel like
Ah,
you're in the flow.
thank you for being patient with me.
You're welcome.
This is a huge reason why I just found the perfect words for it that I'm so happy because I can use this moving forward. Some people are like, how do I feel better? I'm going through life, I'm trying to be the best version of myself, I'm trying to work. You don't seem unaffected, or you seem like you have grown. How do I get there?
Hmm.
When you gain more knowledge and more understanding of how things function spiritually and understand these ideas on a grander, more detailed scale rather than just being like, I want to manifest, receive the manifestation. That's fine. There's no criticism of that. But when you break down like what it means, why, then what happens is when the brunch place you wanted didn't open, because you're so aware of the bigger picture, you're able to be like, oh, probably happened for a reason. And you're just kind of like, okay. But the version of you that might have been a little more in the details and couldn't see the larger picture, that's what people mean when they say see the larger picture. But I feel like sometimes people use grandiose words and they don't quite well explain it. So that would be how I would explain it. By being spiritually aware of how things work, you're able to break it down a little bit, understand it a little bit, and then everything kind of just rolls off your back a lot easier because you feel like you're in on the joke and you have a
Yeah.
lot more control.
And it's also the whole like, if you are constantly like, the universe has my back, like everything's working out perfectly for me. That's one of my favorite mantras is everything's working out perfectly because I don't have to know how the perfect is. I just know that it is. So
Yeah.
whenever something like that happens, if that's your backup script, if that's what's just naturally playing in your head, you don't get so worked up about it. Like you don't get so triggered if the brunch spot is closed and you drove all the way there and it's raining, or you sit down at your table outside because it's raining and then the
This happened
table
for the greater
inside gets
good.
up, right? You're like, ugh. But it's like I ran into my friend, so it was great I was sitting outside so she could see me and come
You
over,
got like
right?
proof for that. That would be a
Mhm.
good example of proof. My favorite one is everything is working out best case scenario.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. And like it didn't come easily to me at first, like, but getting in
Yeah,
the
that's so
flow,
normal.
right, of being like, where can I see the lesson in this? How can I spin this best case scenario now after like a few years of working on it? Like my backup, like what plays in my head when I'm not actively thinking about something is like, I'm always safe and secure. I'm always protected. The universe lovingly takes care of me. I'm always safe and secure. Everything's working out perfectly for me because I've like listened to subliminal messaging. I've worked on affirmations. Like I've adopted this as my belief system. And so like it seems weird at first when you start affirmation work, but like the more it just becomes repetitive, the more your subconscious will like latch onto that, and then it'll become your script, and then you'll
Yeah.
get in the flow. So
And if you're having any resistance, you can ask why you're
Mhm.
having resistance. And then that's why EFT tapping is fantastic, because it's not just subliminal, it's going, you notice like something starts to upset you, and you would start to be
Mhm.
like,
It's a
by the way,
pattern interrupter. Yeah.
I recently found this out. These are actually pressure points in yoga. So these are like, they're called like my, I'm gonna give this information wrong. It's like myneurial points or something like that.
Whoa.
Apologize, I don't know if this is correct, but I heard that recently. I was like, oh, that's where EFT tapping comes from. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's so
some
cool too.
genius was like, put it all together.
Yeah. Because even like there's been scientific studies done now about EFT and like control groups that have been tested on like how anxious they are, how depressed they feel. Like there's usually about a 42 to 45% increase in happiness or like decrease in anxiety when people EFT tap. So like science is backing this up, which like spiritually and intuitively we know, but it's like scientifically proven that
Again, it goes spiritual to physical, spiritual to
Mhm.
physical.
Totally. And I love that about spirituality because like I think science is catching up with it, but like there's so much you can tap
Slow.
into. And then because like I've been doing ancestral healings with my mom for like 20 years. And I was like, this is woo-woo. And now everyone talks about epigenetics and the science of passing down intergenerational trauma. But it's
Yeah,
like
that's
science
a
is now
real
talking
thing.
about it, right? Like, but I was
It
like,
took forever.
Mhm. But it's like shamans and like indigenous cultures have known about this for forever. Yeah.
Native Americans had words for black holes before black holes were discovered. So like
Right?
I love science. Like I'm very
Hmm.
pro science. Actually, there's an amazing YouTuber you guys should check out. I think his name is Anton Petrov. All he
Mm.
does is just talk about science and like the specifically, I'm sorry, that's too broad of a subject in science. Planets,
Hmm.
space. But the point is, I'm always like pro like, hey, you're catching up. You're catching up.
Right? Because even I was listening to um I think it was like a quantum physics documentary with one of my exes, and they were talking about throwing a wallet in a black hole, like hypothetically, if you were in space and you threw your wallet into a black hole.
Waste of a wallet.
Waste of a wallet, but they were talking about how it wouldn't disappear because a lot of people think you put something in a black hole, that's the only way to make something fully disappear. The matter still exists, it's just under, I think, intense pressure is what they were saying. So essentially it just changes form, like how water turns to steam when you heat it up. Under that intense gravitational pressure, matter and particles look very different, and you wouldn't want to try and observe inside a black hole because whatever you put in there would probably get crushed too, right? But it doesn't mean the matter ceases to exist. And that was like a spiritual awakening moment for me. Like, because I was like, wow,
It's all
science is,
coming together.
yeah, it's like science is explaining my like deep belief and faith in we are
Science is
all
not
one.
separate from spirituality, and spirituality is
Mhm.
not separate from science. Like
Right?
completely.
Yeah. I mean, science talk would probably come after me for saying that, but like, that's fine.
I don't know who that is.
I made
So
a video to that effect on my TikTok, and it was like, it blew up because science talk got it, and all the like white straight males on science TikTok were like, you're wrong, you're
they're
stupid.
just processing. They're just
Right?
taking time. You're the seed in their head that will eventually bloom.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's all how we label things, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
completely. Beautifully
Yeah.
put.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, I think we're coming up to our time, close to an hour and a half. So I will
No.
maybe wrap this up a little bit. But
Yeah,
do you
totally.
have any closing thoughts? Like anything you would like to pass along to people? Any quick tarot tips? Anything you would like people to
Too much. Go on, go on. What were you saying? What were you saying?
just where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Oh yeah, you should totally look for me for Supermoon Tarot on YouTube. I'm there. I post a lot. I love it to pieces. I do tarot videos, and I do very in-depth spiritual talks, really breaking down almost in a borderline like scientific way spiritual ideas. I highly recommend that. But I was gonna think of a tarot tip. Start pulling one card for yourself a day and start desensitizing yourself out of fear. So if you get a card you don't like, start to be like, but how can I really see this? Is this bad? Or could I, like, a good example would be like, let's say you got the Queen of Swords in reverse, and normally this is someone who's very jealous and mean and whatever. Maybe it's about you, and it's saying you're basically so smart and you're so good and self-aware. Well, maybe you should be aware you should be nicer to yourself, and you're using it as a weapon against yourself. So that would be like a good thing. And then be nice to yourself, love yourself, give yourself way more permission to be happy, to be psychic. You're doing a lot better job than you know you're doing. And just kind of let that be your inner mantra during tough times.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like, I remember when my friends got the death card in reverse and they were freaking out because it was about their relationship. And I was like, oh, like the death card's a parody of the lovers. So like seeing that in reverse makes me think of the lovers. So like maybe it's more about the lovers than, oh, sorry, the devil card, not death. Devil card has the two figures.
Was it not a good relation? Can I ask? Can I be specific? Was it not a good relationship?
I mean, they're engaged. So like, I think they're decent.
If it's in reverse, it potentially either means you're leaving and it's implying the relationship's toxic and you're leaving, or, and this is the other beautiful one, you had a really bad, not great habit between the two of you, and it's ending.
Love that, right?
That's probably what they had, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, it's an interesting, like, when you start to understand,
yeah, like this.
yeah, like the whole deck, it's like, if you're not familiar with all the cards, you won't necessarily get those like combinations between the two.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but it's like the more that you dig deep into the symbolism and the images, and you study like how pentacles mean physical or money, or how wands tend to be more like fiery, fire signs, that sort of a thing. It's like the more you'll get out of it. Yeah.
And I wanted to add, I have something in the works that is similar to the subject at some point. You guys can look out for. But I was going to say, when you are doing tarot for yourself, take your sweet time thinking it out. Do not worry if you don't have everything memorized. Actually, back in the day, tarot readers, it was very okay for them during a reading to pull out a book and look at the book, because every tarot reading you ever do the rest of your life will always be well, we're figuring this out as we go. So you'll never have enough knowledge that will just be all your answers and you're ready to go. It will always be some form of in the moment intuition. So take your time, look stuff up, figure it out, think about it. Yeah.
Also know, like, if you're connecting with your spirit guides and you're setting that intention, they know where you're at. So like, they're not gonna try and
they'll
trick
match you.
or
You'll level up
you.
together.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna also add, a lot of people jokingly like to be like, oh, my spirit guide really roasted me. Really, they yelled at me. They never will. I find the cards reflect how you reflect yourself and things like that. So just understand that you will get the truth, but the more loving you become and the more open you are and the more forgiving you are, the nicer the message sounds. So if the message sounds really harsh, be like, ooh, what do I need to like get through? What am I doing right now? You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. Very, very well put. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to share this with everyone. Yeah, make sure you follow Supermoon Tarot on YouTube, and yeah, check out all her readings, all her videos. They are amazing.
I wish I had a tarot card to hold up.
Oh, I have some. I had them ready just in case.
I should have one. I've got like a million.
I was like, I don't know where we're gonna go with this, but I was like, maybe we pull a card. I don't know. So I had them at the ready. Yeah.
If you want to pull one right now, we could just do it
Oh,
for kicks.
yeah,
Real quick.
a nice closing. All right, I'm gonna. Yeah. Ooh, 2 of Wands in reverse.
This would imply you've been spending too much time organizing, and you're kind of making excuses. Sorry, my
I literally like deep cleaned everything. Like
you're using it as an excuse to stay stagnant, and now is the time to move forward because you've definitely made the right plan, and it's permission that you're good to go going forward. But stop making excuses.
I was literally like, I'll be more successful in my business if I like organize my room and like put all my clothes away.
Basically, you got told like, you're good, girl, but you're good, girl. You got this. Go.
Amazing. So one last thing to take away, you can have a messy room and thrive.
Yes, exactly. Completely.
Hey, beautiful souls. I'm so excited that we got to do this today. I'm so excited you were here and we got to chat and you got to listen to all the amazing tips that Supermoon has for you. Make sure you follow her YouTube channel and check out all the readings she has up there. They are so accurate and amazing. I love them. And make sure you give us a like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, or leave a wonderful review wherever you get your podcasts. So I'm sending you all my love and light. I'm so happy we got to do this. Have an awesome week. New podcasts come out every Monday on YouTube and every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts. Sending you love and light, friends. Bye.